My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie Wolves is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it. So do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian and OregonLive. Sorry it's been a little bit since the last podcast. Last week I had COVID and you didn't need to hear me hacking up a lung, and then we had a few issues early this week, but we're finally getting together to talk about some Beaver football.
Come on now.
Joining me as always is former Oregon State defensive end Isaac Hodgins. Isaac, it's been a while, but I know you've been keeping tabs on Beaver football.
Oh yeah, been at all the games. Been doing my due diligence as a fan. We're sitting pretty good right now. 2-1, not too bad. Could be worse. I've experienced worse, so we're we're not
3-1. You're
3-1. Yeah, we're
getting a win there.
Yeah.
So it's fourth straight year Oregon State started the season 3-1.
That's right. There you go.
So in some regards, the season's kind of the way it's been going the last three bowl seasons. So,
right.
I think tonight we're going to talk about the last two games since we weren't able to talk about Oregon, and then maybe next week we'll take a little closer look at what goes on during a bye week, and then the upcoming opponent and what's up for October and all that stuff. But I saw you walking out of Valley Football Center on Saturday. Where are you watching? Where are you watching the game?
Just in the Players Lounge. So I just go with all the former alumni of all the sports. So there's like former rowers up there, football teams. I think it was the 1974 Oregon State Beavers who were all up there this past game. They got honored. They had like their anniversary. So that was pretty cool to see all the guys getting back together. Just like, there goes my future right there. All old and gray, and seeing the old quarterbacks and whatnot.
Those dudes are in their 70s.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see. It was one of them. They were taking a picture. The center was down in his position, and the quarterback was behind him. I was cracking up. That was awesome.
Yeah. Could they look like they could still hit if they wanted to, or?
Nah, he was struggling to get his hand on the ground. His hand was kind of hovering, so I was like, "Come on, man, you got to get in your stance."
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're a lean, mean former player.
I don't know about lean.
How many? How many people are in the Players Lounge during a game?
There wasn't too many this past. I mean, there usually isn't too many, but there's a lot this past game because the reunion and whatnot. But probably looking at about 50, maybe 50 plus. I think that's about right. It's cool to see like Steven Jackson's up there at one point. Mike has, so it's cool to see those guys.
Lounge, that sounds like a place where there's a lot of food and drink and stuff. Is there any of that, or is it just?
Yeah, you would think. No, it's kind of more like kid oriented. I think there's water, and then there's some food. They bring up all the recruits up to that area before the game, so there's some food laid out. So if you could get there early enough, you could steal some of that. But we're definitely not living in luxury or anything.
Yeah,
some big fans trying to see a good game.
So I was curious to hear what you've thought. I think this is the fourth game where they've had 4 different uniform combinations, and that really wasn't a thing of the past. In the past, it's just been pretty much, well, they've had orange uniform and a black uniform with, different. Maybe the helmet's got a different logo or things like that. But this year they've kind of expanded it to the white helmets and the different uniform shades of black and things like that. What do you think of the expanded uniform options? Do you like them, or? I
like the classic white. I wasn't a big fan of the cream, so I like the classic white. I love the past uniforms, the gray. I mean, that was awesome. I wish I was jealous. I was very jealous, not going to lie. But I like the simplicity of the uniforms. It's kind of like, it's basic logo, the Beavers logo, or written Beavers, and then there's not too much going on with the jerseys. It's just the nice colors, and I don't know, I like them. I think it's cool to mix and match them, but it's only like what they got. Do they have orange? They have orange, black, gray.
They haven't run out the orange one yet this year. But
so that would be cool to see that one. But I like the new uniforms. I'm a bit jealous, honestly.
I'm not sure I like the white lids, but I don't know.
I like it's like a little touch of white. I like it. It would have been cool to see the all gray. Gray is like probably one of my favorite colors to wear. So I'm jealous to see those guys wearing that.
Before we get to the games, have you been following much about what's been going on with the Pac-12?
Yeah, I saw. Who was it? UNLV is either joined or they're teetering, and then it's 7-7. We got Pac-12 has 7, and then Mountain West has 7, and so we're trying to recruit some guys in the ACC. I hear there's a lot going on.
Well, unofficially, UNLV is still on the sideline. They're still trying to figure out what to do, but I can't imagine they won't be here. They just announced like a few minutes ago that Utah State is officially in. So, so there's 7. So, but I was curious last year, when all this stuff was going on. I mean, how much did you guys pay attention to what was going on, or did you just focus on the season?
I think if anything, for these guys, this scenario, they're even more locked in because they're like, hey, man, we got the Pac-12. We're back and running. We're kind of rebuilding the thing. So I think for us, our situation was different because everyone was going into the situation thinking, are we not going to be a Power 5 conference anymore? Are we, that's going to affect recruiting. And I think even there were some staff members who were concerned, right? Because the funding in the Mountain West is a lot different than Pac-12 funding, and the staff and everything. It's just everything's a lot different when you drop down a level. So I think everyone was kind of concerned at that point, rightfully so. But I think now it's like, if anything, it's a huge encouragement, of like, oh man, we got the Pac-12 back up and running. So I don't think there's much distraction for them. If anything, it's more like, oh, let's go. They're more excited.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't Smith get you guys together during camp last year and talk you into, focusing on the season and not so much, which I guess worked until people started finding out that he was actually looking for a job.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for us early on, and we were all focused. We're like, hey, if anything, we're all focused because, like, if this is the last Pac-12 championship, we want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's history. Yeah. So there's a bit different motivations for us, but I think towards the end of the season, when you hear talks about Mountain West, you kind of get concerned. But I think now these guys in the locker room should be feeling good about where they are. The team's doing well. I mean, in my eyes, this is a rebuild year, and they're doing great. So, I mean, if you could go to a bowl game on a rebuild year, that means you're building up pretty strong.
Well, let's say the league is Oregon State, Washington State, and then the 6th, and then it'd be Colorado State, Utah State, San Diego State, Boise. They're all states. Boise State. UNLV, if they end up coming. So for those 8 schools, how enticing is that for a player, given that, there's a pretty good chance the league champ would be high enough rated to get one of the CFP berths.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, especially since, if you're a West Coast kid, you don't want to have to go over to the SEC or the Big Ten in order to have a chance at the college football playoffs. Like, I know there's, Oregon and Washington, they're playing in the Big Ten and whatnot, and there's a bunch of people playing in different conferences, but there's only so many schools over here on the West Coast that are considered, Power 5 schools in which you could go and to the college football playoffs. So having Oregon State and Washington State as an option still is a huge motivating factor. I mean, guys want to go to a program they know they can win and excel at and have a shot, and I love the new structure they're doing for the college football playoffs. I think it's way better.
Can you root for those schools, by the way, the Oregons and Washingtons and USCs and UCLAs in the Big Ten, or are they just dead to you?
Personally, it was a lot easier when they were a part of the Pac-12. Like if, for example, USC was going to they were in a bowl game or something, I'm like, okay, just win so that it doesn't make the Pac-12 look so bad. Because I just feel like the Pac-12 has that chip on their shoulder of all the other conferences or, SEC, Big Ten, they're all kind of looking at us like we're the slouches almost. So I do like to root for the Pac-12 guys, but I could care less now if they're not in the Pac-12.
Right. So I would probably take a look at each game on its own, Oregon and Purdue, but kind of one overarching question I'm curious on. Oregon was obviously a one-sided loss. Purdue was a pretty dominating win. But clearly those teams they're not the same. That's fairly obvious. Could you tell if Oregon State played better in one game than the other?
The thing we always talked about that Coach Lange was big on, our defensive line coach, he was always big on good teams will take advantage of your mistakes. And Purdue, they weren't able to take advantage of the mistakes we made, and we were able to take advantage of their mistakes, in fact. If you go, I guarantee you, if you're playing Oregon, you're not going for it on 4th and 1 on your 28-yard line, right? You make that mistake against Oregon, you can't do that. But against a team like Purdue, you got some. Still, I don't think the play call was great. I don't even know. That's beyond the point. There's just certain mistakes you can't make when you're the better the team you're playing, you can't make certain mistakes. And so I don't know if I could say it was just a better performance more than Purdue wasn't able to capitalize on the mistakes we made. And we were able to capitalize on their mistakes. So that was the biggest thing I saw. But there were some struggles I saw even versus Purdue, wide zone was killing us. They were hitting our edges all day. And, I don't know what necessarily was the problem because I don't know the play call and I don't know whose responsibility is what, but it just seems like wide zone was giving us fits all day.
Yeah. Well, the Oregon game obviously was a 49-14 loss to the Ducks, which I'm sure didn't sit well with you.
Right.
I mean, what were your thoughts on that performance?
I was just honestly I'm just speaking from my own experience as a player. The only way we beat Oregon and we would beat these high ranked teams is we brought pressure. We're bringing pressure where the quarterback's not able to think. We're dictating where he's going to throw the ball, right? When we played Caleb Williams and USC, people went to our game defensively to see how we stop this offense that no one else could stop. And the way you do it is with pressure. If you're on defense, playing defense, you're not in a good position. From what I've experienced, when we're on defense playing offense, we're attacking the offense, we're not receiving, we're giving, we're taking, we're dictating what they're going to do. That's when we were successful, and we were successful in the past when we beat Oregon, right? When we beat Oregon, we were making it uncomfortable for Bo Nix back there. We're making it uncomfortable for all these guys, all these quarterbacks who are, great. We were not giving them 4 or 5 seconds to pat the ball, to take off, to do what they wanted. And when we did bring pressure, we didn't show it immediately to where they could check to a screen and run for a 50-yard touchdown. That's not what we were. I was just perplexed as to why we were just dropping 7 every play and just rushing 4, and we weren't. I mean, he was comfortable out there. He's patting the ball. That's just what I saw. What do you think?
No, for sure. I mean, I was also going to ask. I mean, was Oregon's talent just too much to overcome, or did Oregon State's defense just not show up?
No, I just don't. I'm
assuming it's a combination of the two, but
I just don't think you can. I mean, you can't let a quarterback like Oregon has sit there for 4 seconds and let their wide receivers who run 4.3 40s just run all over the field. Like, no one, I don't care how talented you are, you can't cover that. Like, defensive back is very hard. You can't cover for 4 or 5 seconds. You just can't. And, and obviously they were able to do whatever they want. They could run the ball. They could pass the ball. They were having their way with us. Obviously it starts, you got to shut down the run. We couldn't do that. So, I mean, their offensive playbook was wide open. Defensively, you want to make it to where they only have one option. Either they pass the ball and all they could do is throw it to the flat, because you can't wait long enough for these long routes to develop, because there's a dude hitting you in the chest every 2 seconds.
Yeah. I just felt once Gabriel ran that RPO that went for 50 yards and a touchdown, it kind of was over. It just felt like Oregon was going to be able to do whatever they wanted to do, whenever they wanted to do it, and there wasn't much the Beavers could do to stop it. And I mean that play there, I'm not sure anybody even touched him, let alone even got close to tackling him.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm having a hard time to remember, but it just seemed like going into halftime, I'm like, okay, there's a shot here. Like, we're right here. We're right at the precipice. Like, let's make some adjustments and kind of, go win this ball game. And it just seemed like Oregon was able to recalibrate, and then they were just hitting on all cylinders after halftime. And story was wrote at that point.
How do you, as a player, how do you flush a game like that where you're, clearly you just got buried?
You go through Sunday corrections. You take your rest day on Monday, and you come back to toughness Tuesday, and you're ready. You're popping pads, and you're focused on that practice, and you just trust your process. You just gotta, once Sunday is over, you gotta flush it. Monday you gotta recover, and then Tuesday you're going. And I think it's a little easier when Purdue got blown out as well, so that kind of helped. That helped. We were both on kind of even playing field at that point. They got blown out a little worse than we did, but I think that's how you flush it. Is you just have to trust the process, follow the process that you've been doing, and not give up on it.
But 49-14 still in the back of your head for a while, isn't it? It's just naturally, or is it? Do you look at the next week's opponent and go, well, this is a team we could beat, and so we gotta. So that game is over, and this is a team we can beat. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's the best way to look at it.
I mean, as a player, I know this is what Coach Bray is teaching them. Of like, you got to be a pro. Like, as a pro, you can't let your last game dictate how you prepare for this next game. I mean, you can be in the dumps all you want, but that's not going to help anyone here. So you got to kind of be a pro, flush it, and prepare for this. Start watching film on the next guys, see where their weaknesses are, see where you can exploit them, and show that the week before was a one-off and not who you want.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the toughest game you might have come off of for the following week, and I was thinking it was probably your last set of 2 games, where the Washington game where that wasn't a blowout, but it was a game that kind of put a damper on the season. And you beat Washington, you got so many things possible.
Right.
But once you lost that game, stuff was, the Pac-12 was out. a really good bowl game was out, things like that. And then obviously stuff started to unravel during the week too. But I mean, that game the Oregon game last year must have been really tough to get ready for because just based on what it meant. I
would say the Oregon game 2 times was very hard to get ready for. That this last season, 2023, obviously was the hardest one. And then the second one was 2019 when we had that big loss to Washington State, and that was dictating the bowl game. And it was almost like, we went into the game of like, oh, we're not making the bowl game. But it's like, if we won that game, we're going to a bowl game. You know what I mean? But we had injuries, and we weren't sure if our quarterback was going to go. And we weren't – I don't think Jake Luton played that game.
Right, yeah, Luton missed the game with a finger injury or something like that.
My brother was, he was hurt and trying to just survive play-by-play. So that was kind of a downward one to kind of prepare for too. But that's why I don't like Oregon very much.
How did the stadium sound in the Duck game? I mean, I'm in the press box, so it's a little hard to tell how it was. Did it deflate quite a bit in the second half, or?
I mean, once it got to that point, I mean, the stadium started kind of clearing out. I think up until like halftime, then after halftime, it was alive in there. I mean, that flyover, man, I was ready to go down to the locker room, put some pads on. I was ready to play that game. And then the energy was just great in there. I love seeing it, packed house. Hated seeing the Oregon colors in our stadium, but, this is America. You can't discriminate or whatever it may be.
Right.
Yeah. So
do you think Oregon State should keep playing Oregon?
I think so. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope they can somehow figure out to like bring back some more tradition. Have it be towards the end of the season. It felt a little weird that it was like game 3. Yeah. But I think as the Pac-12 stays a thing, and we begin to rebuild, it won't be a blowout every time. You know what I mean? I'm hoping it could be competitive and we could go and get some players in the portal, like everyone else with our newfound life here. Yeah.
Well, that's enough on Oregon. Let's go to Purdue. Offensively, we saw kind of an expanded look from the running game. The Oregon State got out on the edges, especially after, early in the game anyway. They were kind of still going in between the tackles, but it really got on the edges, for most of the game and caused a lot of problems for Purdue. How much of a problem do you think that was for Purdue's defense?
I mean, you could see it. That speed option is lovely. I mean, keep running that because McCoy just looks comfortable. He looks comfortable in that situation, looks comfortable using his legs. And then you just saw Purdue had a lack of discipline. Obviously, you would have the corner and the linebacker both going for the running back. It's like, no. If you have the running back, you stay with the running back. If you have the quarterback, you tackle the quarterback. Like, you don't abandon your role for anyone else. You don't try to do anyone else's job. And that's what Purdue was struggling, is they're struggling having someone assigned to the quarterback, stick with the quarterback, and someone assigned to the running back, stick with the running back. So you saw them struggle a lot with that, and they tried to adjust, and then McCoy would do the fake little pitch, and then he'd take it himself. That's a hard play to stop if you're not sound defensively. And you're not.
Yeah, it looked like at times that they weren't even covering the pitch, man. No. I mean, it looked like was.
Yeah.
And Trent had said after the game that that they went with this approach because of what they saw on film from Purdue. So I'm assuming this isn't something that they'll try against every team, but is there something you would see on video that would make you go, okay, this might work against this defense? Is there something defenses do?
That's what the coaches are spending hours away from their wives doing, is they're figuring out, like, yes, we have our DNA of what we like to do as an offense, but what specific plays are we going to run that will work against this defense? And you have to do that for every game and every team. And so if you're not able, you have your bread and butters, obviously, that you stick with, but then you bring out other things of like, okay, this would work. Let's make this play for this team. You find what works and you use it. But I think whatever can get McCoy the ball in his arms and get him comfortable, because it seems he's very comfortable running, get him comfortable early on in the game, and play to his strengths. And then let him feel loose, like, okay, I've got this now. Let's find our balls downfield.
Right. There wasn't much for the passing game, but when you run for 341 and you can pretty much get 10 and 20 yards on a lot of running plays, you probably don't need it. But at some point, Oregon State's going to have to figure out how to get the ball down the field through the air. And are you seeing guys getting open? It felt like in the first half they were trying, but either Giovanni didn't see guys open or maybe they just weren't even getting open. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would like to see we've kind of abandoned our tight end pass game, and it's kind of upsetting me just because, from my experience, that's been a huge part of our offense. We were tight end U for a long time. I mean, we just had tight end after tight end after tight end after tight end just go to the NFL, and we utilized the heck out of those guys. And I think that's, I think we got to find a way to get those guys involved in the pass game, because it does seem like there's a struggle to kind of connect in that area of our offense. I think our run game is connecting and it's hitting. I think if we could find a way to piggyback off of that, have our rollout, our play action, our naked passes where we're rolling out and finding the tight end in the flat or on a crosser, whatever it may be. Just finding a way to get more guys involved in the pass game, because I think that's a big part of our strength in the pass.
Yeah, it is kind of puzzling why the tight end has not been used much in the. I mean, Jermaine Terry has not caught a pass yet this year, I believe, and he's played more.
Bryce caught maybe like 2 or something.
Yeah. I don't. And obviously, it's a different offense, a different coordinator, but I mean, Gundy said he wanted to use the tight end, and I don't know. It just feels like that's something that needs to probably evolve in this offense too. Is finding some more opportunities for the tight ends, because I mean, I don't know. I know they block a lot, but
yeah, I mean,
tight ends are still judged from the public by the way by their catches. So
in my opinion, I think the wide delay is one of the best offensive plays. It's like hardly ever stopped. Basically, the tight end blocks for a little bit and then goes out on a vertical pass, and the quarterback just finds him. He's open every time. Wide delay, man. Come back to it. It works.
Yeah. So the kick six obviously was a weird play. I'm not even asking if you've seen anything like that before, because I don't think it's ever been. I don't think I played. That's just a one-off to me. I know reporters are asking players after the game, have you seen anything like that? Well, no. I mean, who catches a ball off somebody's calf on a rebound and has nothing but green grass for a touch? I mean, that's one of those weird ones.
That's one of those things as a player, you're just like, dude, that's awesome. But it's like, man, that never happens to me. What the heck? Like, that's just right place, right time. There's nothing special you did other than, you did your job and then the ball was right there and then you scored. Like, it's awesome. But he had a heck of a game. I'll tell you what, he had a heck of a game. I mean, he was all over the field.
I mean, that's a situation that, you could have found yourself in any number of times, isn't it? Coming off the edge and get between the quarterback and the receiver and the flat.
Me and Cody, former D lineman, we always talk, man, that never happens for us. What the heck? Like, or we'd just be watching ESPN and some defensive lineman catches a screen pass or something or whatever it may be. It's just like, dude, what the heck? But that's what I'm saying. Things like that kind of went our way and we're happy about it. But it's like, that doesn't happen all the time. When you go for it on 4th and 1 on your own side of the field you turn the ball over and then you get a fumble the next play. It's like, that doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
when that play happened, I mean, at first I just thought, well, he's just picking up the ball and running the end zone because that's what those guys do. But
yeah,
I didn't. I mean, I had to watch it a few times to realize, yeah, that actually was a live ball.
Yeah, no, I saw the way the ball bounced. And I'm like, dude, that either hit his foot or his leg or something. And I'm just happy the refs didn't call the play dead because they assumed it hit the ground.
Yeah,
I'm glad they stuck to their training there, let the play run and then review it. So that was awesome. Yeah. He had a heck of a game. He was all over the field. Didn't he have a sack or?
Yeah, he had a sack, and he's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, a few good.
You brought up the fourth down calls, obviously, and so I was going to get to that. Boy, that first one, I don't know. I know this. I know statistically on those analytics sheets, they say anything from the 9-yard out is a go, but there's so many other things you have to factor into that. I mean, first series of the game, 29-yard line. I just figure, like, I'm okay going there if you really got a play you think is going to work,
right?
But that didn't look like a play that was.
I don't even know what happened.
That couldn't possibly have been that the fade to the sideline could not have been the play. That would have been the second or third option or something.
There may have been a bust or something that happened. I don't know if it was an RPO, and I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I was kind of dumbfounded, like, what?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you were down on the call. Would you have been down on the call if you were wearing a uniform, stand on the sideline?
I mean, I think that's kind of the trust, the trust factor that comes in of, obviously as Purdue, it's disrespectful, right? You're going for it on 4th and 1 on your own side of the field, and let alone you throw a fade route, But as a defense, it's like, okay, like, defense, get ready. Like, let's do our job and get the ball back, which we did. We did our job. We got the ball back, right? It was a fumble the next play, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, they ran about 4 plays, got inside the 10, and then they fumbled it.
Yeah. I mean, defense did their job, and I think that's part of the calculated risk is, will our defense kind of bow up and do their job? And obviously, Coach Bray and staff have a huge, immense respect and belief in their defense, and I'm as a player, I'm not thinking twice about it if my coach trusts that much in us. But at the same time, if things didn't go your way at the end of the game, you might be like, why the heck did we do that? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm speaking out. Yeah. I'm saying two different things, but.
Well, they went for it. They went for it on 4th down 3 times, but the second one was the other one that was right on the border. It's 4th and 2, 4th and goal from the 2. Right. You're up 17-7 early in the third quarter.
Field goal, yeah.
You kick a field goal and you're up 20-7. But if you punch it in, then it's then you're up 3 scores. But if you don't make it, he just kind of kicked away an opportunity. It feels like, I don't know. That one didn't bother me as much as the first one, but
first one,
I didn't love that one either. But that one was more, could swallow that one a little easier.
Yeah, I think the first one bothered me more of just like, I don't know what the play call was, and I don't know what happened on the field. But I was just like, what? Yeah, I'm not an offensive guy by any means, but I was just confused as to what even the play was. I don't know if it was a busted play and someone's just trying to get open now, or if it was like, maybe it was like a fire screen type of play where someone acted like they were going to block and then went out on a fade. Like, I don't even know. I don't know.
Well, it feels like Trent is. I mean, Jonathan was clearly bold on 4th down calls and a little reckless when you're using the kicker on one of them, but it feels like Trent's is even more prone to wanting to go for some of these. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's the coach, and I'm sure they have got all the analytics and stuff, but it just feels like, man.
Nick, sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but no, I'm actually okay with a lot. There's a lot of fans that they're just locked in on punt on fourth down, kick field goals on fourth down. I mean, there's a lot of situations where I think they should go for it, but
right.
I don't know, man. 4th and 1 for the 29. That one was out there.
Able to sleep a little better if it was just like, it kind of felt like the Marshawn Lynch Super Bowl type of situation where it's like, dude, you're throwing a flat route or a crosser on 4th and 1 on the goal line. You got Marshawn Lynch back there. Like, come on, just run the ball. Give the ball to Jam or Jake Reichel and let them try to get a few inches.
I mean, when it costs Oregon State a game, that's when everything's gonna,
right.
That's when people are gonna, want to know. But that's what you're buying in with Trent Bray. I mean, that's part of the package. So,
hey, I mean, it's not something usually we see with defensive head coaches. They're more like conservative on the offense side of the ball. And I honestly like what I'm seeing from Coach Bray as a head coach. I think he's well balanced, and the offense is figuring it out, and the defense is solid. So I think there's some areas on both sides of the ball we could tighten up, but it's not like, Coach Bray is only a defensive coach and doesn't know what he's doing when the offense comes on the field. But, Coach Bray is a smart dude. He's one of the most IQ sound football people I know. He knows, he grew up, he's married to this game. So full trust in that guy.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, last thing I want to ask you about is the defense. What do you think after 4 games? It feels like up front it's got to get better. Just statistically, it's not been good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just feels like it's got to get better. I mean, statistically, Oregon State's near the bottom of FBS in tackles for losses and sacks. They're giving up, like they're in the bottom 10 in yards per carry, things like that. I don't know. What are you seeing up front? I'm
not seeing the same type of vertical attitude that we had 2 years ago. Like how you stop wide zone how you give wide zone fits is you get vertical. You get vertical and you cut off the play and bounce it back to your help. When we started playing a vertical defense, like Coach Mahalchek, we were giving him fits. Like he couldn't understand why the wide zone wasn't working like it was before against us in practice. It was because we were getting vertical no matter what at all costs. And, we weren't playing on the line of scrimmage. And that allowed everyone to play fast. So I'm not seeing that vertical mentality as much, which is surprising me because that's Coach Bray's MO. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some conversations around that and philosophy wise. I don't know. I don't know the philosophy that they're kind of teaching the guys defensively anymore. It just doesn't look the same as what it was prior.
Well, I don't, from a talent standpoint, I mean, last year your team was up front was extremely veteran. I mean, you had a lot of guys that played a lot of football,
right?
And I'm not sure this group is definitely not as experienced. There's some guys that have been around, but
yeah. And I think that's the beauty. That's the beauty with the vertical defense is when it doesn't matter who you have in there. If you go vertical and you force them to cut when you force the running back to cut when he doesn't want to cut, you're already disrupting the play.
Yeah.
But if you sit on the line of scrimmage and you don't have maybe the talent or whatever you want to call it, I don't think that's necessarily the issue. I think maybe on the biggest place I would say, I just think it's the mentality, honestly. I think these guys are more than capable of being a great defense up front. But there just has to be this mentality of like, I'm going to get vertical, get upfield. But they may not be coaching that anymore. I'm not sure. I could just tell from, for example, on the defensive line side of things, what I know, on double teams, they're flipping. And usually that's a technique you use when you're playing a defensive front where you're trying to make a fence rather than you're trying to get vertical. When you're trying to get vertical as a defensive lineman and you get a 2-on-1 block, you're trying to split these guys by just getting off the ball fast and knocking the dude back who's in front of you. So you're trying to knock back this guard so that the tackle can't come right alongside of them and push you backwards. What these guys are teaching is you're going to take on the block and you're going to flip. So basically you're going to put your back towards the guy who's trying to double team you. And that's the technique they taught us when we were running a 3-4 and we were running, a build the wall type of defense rather than a break the wall, get vertical type of defense. So I don't know. I don't know the mentality they're trying to play right now. And that might be something to look at. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see what we see 2 weeks. What if they make a few adjustments to that, because I mean it's got to get better up front. There's just no question about it. They're just not effective enough.
Yeah, and I mean you got the guys to do it. You got TC, super quick, super fast. Like he's built to get forward, and then you got your big guys. You got Schuster. You got Samisi, who's done the get vertical before. I just don't know. I don't know what they're teaching.
And that's where it all starts, because like you've said before, I mean, it doesn't matter how good you are in the back end. If guys aren't putting pressure on the quarterback,
right? You can't. I don't care if you have Richard Sherman back. I don't care if you have the Legion of Boom back there. They're not guarding these wide receivers who run a 4.3 for more than 3 seconds. It's impossible almost.
What are you seeing from the back end of the defense? From the inside linebackers back to the DBs. What are you seeing from those guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's seeing like at times there's like spurts, like Chisholm and Melvin, they're doing great. But it's just hard when these guards, these offense linemen are able to get up to the second level and kind of seal you off. That's where we were struggling with the wide zone. Is offensive line was just having their way with everyone, and the running back was able to stretch it until he saw a hole and he's hitting it, and then there's no one to stop him. And then I'm just seeing on the back. I mean, the back end is looking good, obviously, but it's hard to say, because in the Oregon game, we struggled on the back end, but we also struggled on the front end. So whose fault is it? I can't blame the guys back there for not covering someone when the quarterback is patting the ball. He's playing pat and go. Right. He's literally just playing pat and go. He's playing, okay, who's going to be open? Oh, you are. Okay, boom, here we go. Like having his way, rather than like, I'm about to get hit. Like I need to throw it. I need to hit my hot right now.
Right. And
there's just not that sense of urgency. There's not that clock going on in the quarterback's head of like, I need to get the ball off.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that's got to happen in the next few games. So the defense has got to show up a little bit better up front, at least with the pressure. We'll see how that evolves, and because I just don't see this team as being one that is going to outscore. I don't see getting into shootouts, or if they fall down by 14 points, so they may come back from something like that. Right. They need to stay on schedule with the running game and control the clock. And in those games, those are the kind of games they can win. But
right,
if
shootout, you know what I mean? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State has scored some points this season, but it's all been from a place of being ahead and just building on a lead, as opposed to falling behind 31-21. Okay, can you come back from that? That's a little tougher, I think, for this offense. So,
agree.
But anyway,
yeah, I think
next week, like I said, we'll get into what goes on during a bye week. We'll look at Colorado State a little bit. Look at October, how this, how things shape up for the Beavers, and maybe by next week we'll know what's going on with the Pac-12 in terms of what it's going to look like, and who knows. I mean, give us 6 hours and shoot, the world will look different in college football. So,
things move quick nowadays.
Yeah. All right, Isaac. Hey, I appreciate your time. We'll see you next week on Beaver Banter.
Go Beavs.